professionally, and to use that as an example of professional growth. For instance, there's a group of teachers in one of the schools who decided to look at the math instruction for all of the fourth grade. So all of the fourth grade teachers came together and identified where they were struggling, if you will, and who had the strengths in those areas, and how they were going to collaborate with one another to change what was happening in that particular area. And they wrote that up as their professional development. All of them were participants of FIRST. So it gave them an opportunity to start looking at what is it that I want to do differently, or what is it that I haven't been able to address, and maybe in this environment I can find a way with my colleagues to come up with a solution. So the professional development components of FIRST really drives, and one of the things that we did with the principals is for them to identify some projects or areas that they felt were important or things that needed to happen in the school, and to see if anyone wanted to take that on as a professional development project.
Is there any correlation between, I guess, typical hours that would be expected?
No, we didn't do anything with the hours, because we do have a number of emoluments that we pay, and different, if you're doing this, then you're eligible for this. And one of the things that does, we have to be very careful, because what we're trying to do, we didn't want it to seem like we were trying to take away from those things that have been structured and have been identified as ways in which teachers are recognized for the additional work that they're doing. But we also wanted to identify ways that professional growth that the teachers are identifying could be incentivized.
And the other piece was we had a representative from the teachers union in our last colloquium, and maybe it was just me, I came away with the impression that they were pretty much against teacher incentive plan. And so you could just talk more about, I guess, the dialogue back and forth that allowed the teachers union to be excited about the FIRST program as well.
Well, let me simply say that my, one of the things that I joined Prince George's County Public Schools 2 years ago when Dr. Dacey was there. And from the day that I came on board, one of the things that was very clear was that if you're going to be in the school system, no matter how far removed you are from the classroom, you've got to be able to discern how your behavior and how your decisions positively impact students. And so from that perspective, we all worked on how this program was going to make our school system more positive and more equitable for all students in our county. And that was, for me, the screen that all of us continually used. For a while, we had some transition in the leadership, and I had to facilitate a number of our meetings. And when we would hit roadblocks, and believe me, there were times when we didn't see eye to eye, but the question that I would pose is, what impact does this have on our children? At one point in time, someone said, I get sick of you saying that. And I said, good, because if it gets you back to what we have to be focused upon, then that's where we need to be. And sometimes, if you're clear around why you're doing what you're doing, and the purpose of this was to improve student performance. The weight of the dollars that people are eligible for is tied to student performance. And so if you focus upon that, then you can find common ground, and that was the goal.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Just a fast-paced question. I don't know what CSEP is, and we've heard CSEP a couple times.
It's a special education program.
Thank you.
Well, I think John gave us a great segue to our next speaker.
He is from the
Speaking of the
India.
union guy, right?
Yeah, speaking of the union guys, I'm sure
Come to tell you all the reasons why it's not going to work.
Mr. Eubanks, thank you and welcome.
Thank you, my pleasure. Thanks for inviting me. Ms. Davis gave a great description of an on-the-ground, very innovative program. So I'm going to now bring you to 20,000 feet in the air and talk more from a national perspective and from a conceptual frame about this concept, this very challenging concept when I got the note about the discussion about how incentives improve student achievement, which is a very interesting and very challenging concept, as you know. Before I start, a couple of caveats. You guys are in this great University of Maryland program. I know because I'm a student just like you. God, the university, and my willpower willing, I'll be done in December 2010 with my EDD in teaching learning policy. But that said, most important, I'm not a researcher. Even my EDD is not a research-focused EDD. I'm a policy maker. I'm a policy wonk. I'm a policy advocate. I'm an advocate for teachers and an advocate for kids. So my perspective comes from one where we hope to effectively use research to promote the kinds of educational policies that our schools need to ensure that every one of our children gets the education they deserve. So that's my personal perspective, and I'll talk a little bit, just a little bit about NEA. And every one of you have heard of NEA. I might tell you a couple of things you don't know in my 2-minute summary. NEA is a national association of 3.2 million members. Everyone who's heard of NEA hears of us as the teachers union. It is indeed true that we are a union, but it's also true that we are a professional association. We're more than 100 years old. We have 3.2 million folks who include teachers, guidance counselors, education support professionals, college professors, and all kinds of people who work in schools. I'm the director of teacher quality, and I like to talk about the fact that if you really look at the history of policy in education, I submit that there's not an organization in the history of America that has done more to promote the concept of teaching and the teaching profession than the National Education Association. So our union hat, I wear two hats. We are indeed a union, but we are a strong professional association, one that has as our core mission that every teacher deserves, every student deserves a highly qualified teacher, and every student should go to a great public school. That's our mission, that's our vision, and that's what we work toward. I also am here representing tonight particularly the NEA Foundation. The NEA Foundation is a nonprofit arm of our association. Every one of our 3.2 million dues-paying members, $1 of their dues goes to their association. So we start with a base of $3.2 million. We also have a lot of other partnerships with other foundations to increase that endowment. Most of that money goes right back into the hands of teachers in classrooms to do things like action research projects and innovations in the classroom. And more recently, and this is what brought some of this discussion around pay for performance, we've been working with large partnerships in school districts focused on this concept of using union and school district collaboration and partnership to solve key educational problems and to help close academic achievement gaps in schools. And so I'll be talking a little bit about that. I don't really have a presentation. Also, my last caveat, I apologize to a young lady trying to record this. I'm a mover, so forgive me. Before I have a lot of thoughts and a lot of ideas, hopefully some provocative ideas to share on the table that we can then open up a dialogue. I don't know much about the conversations that you've had, so even before I start, if you guys have the big questions or issues that you have about this concept of incentives and how they might improve student achievement, I'd like to start with that. I know I already have one on the table, right? Is the union for or against this? Do teachers really think this is a good idea, or do we think this is yet another attack on our autonomy and our integrity and that kind of thing? And I'll talk some about that as well. But if there are others that you can think of before I start, now's a good time to ask them. All right, I'll get rolling then, and stop me at any time, because I could get on a pretty good roll. Just stop me at any time if you have a question or a comment, and we can exchange some dialogue. Certainly from a policy perspective, there is probably no bigger issue in Washington, D.C. now than the issue of pay for performance, merit pay, incentive pay, or what you have. And over the past 2 or 3 years, I've probably been to about 30 conferences, summits, meetings, and all kinds of other gatherings of Washington-based think tanks around this issue of teacher pay for performance. It really focuses, I think, on 2 primary issues. One is that the issue of teacher quality is now one of the central issues in American policy around education. That isn't how it's always been. It's not too long ago, some of us may remember, back when we were teacher-proofing the curriculum. And this concept that anybody, if you can get up and just say what's on the curriculum, everything is fine. But probably starting around 19, we dated probably this new revolution around the focus on teacher quality